Hey, Earthlings, how's you doing? So I was chatting to a VIP volunteer, Vegan Information Project volunteer, about an incident that happened, and turned out to be quite interesting. Thought I'd relate it here because it raised a number of issues which were really kind of fascinating. We were setting up our normal. We're doing quite a few kind of World Vegan Month events at the moment, and we were setting up one of them only last week. And this guy was looking at our Tools of Injustice display, and he said, "Oh, I used to work in a slaughterhouse." And I said, "What, the Keypack one, which is a Dublin-based one?" And he said, "No, another one in Dublin, but it's closed down." So I said, "So what did you do in the slaughterhouse?" And he said that he worked on the kill line. So I asked if he was the actual sticker, and he said no, he worked just down the way from there. But he did say that he got the distinct impression that the other animals were conscious of what was going on, that they struggled against it wherever they could, that they often woke up because they weren't stunned properly. And he related the story of one ram who had fallen from the kill line and then proceeded to kind of run around trying to escape. And then he said, in terms of kind of rationale, if you like, of the entire kind of process, that, well, someone's got to do it. And I said, well, that bit is not true. People can be vegan. And it reminded me that there's a fairly well-known book on ethnography by Gail Aizenitz called Slaughterhouse. And I do remember that line in there too, that someone said, one of the respondents to Aizenitz said, well, someone's got to do it, so why not me, as it were? And it's interesting that, because you've got this situation where there are fairly kind of complex issues to be discussed, and yet this one, which like farmers and slaughterhouse workers, they kind of go on the basis that, well, we're providing food. Society needs food. Humans would die without food, and so therefore someone has to do it. Well, obviously the provision of food someone has to do, but the provision of flesh, that doesn't have to be done. So there's a kind of element of kind of deconstruction that is needed when you're talking to people about this. And it reminded me that I was on a recent radio show in Ireland, and the interviewer wanted immediate, kind of very quick soundbite answers to complex issues. And it was almost a situation where, you get half of your first sentence out, and he would jump in and kind of suggest that you couldn't answer the question. And it's not really the case at all. It's more to do with the fact that some questions require, a nuanced and, developed kind of argument. This happens on the street sometimes. People will ask you a question, and before you can even begin to start to answer, they'll ask you a second and third question, and almost suggest that you can't really answer the first. And it's more to do with they don't really give you the time to do so, When Tom Regan, the author of The Case for Animal Rights, appeared on the Late Late Show, which is an Irish chat show, if you like, he said on 3 occasions to a question, well, that's a difficult question. And Reagan was very honest in this. When he was asked a difficult question, his response was, well, that's a difficult question. And he did it 3 times, and by the time he got to the third one, the audience were restless and they were moaning and groaning about it. But he was just being honest, He also said on a radio show called The Moral Maze that animal advocates, don't know the answers to everything. These complicated issues are complicated, and that we need people of goodwill to come together in order to try to begin to solve these issues. And it's interesting how someone who was so honest, like Reagan was almost like criticized for trying to fully answer a question rather than just provide a soundbite, And some of these complex issues can't be answered with a soundbite. It's just as simple as that, you know. And I felt that the other day when this guy says, you know, well, someone's got to do it, and you think, well, you know, actually that's like an assumption that you hold, and that is the base assumption for your rationale for what you do. But the base assumption is wrong. The very premise of the position is wrong. You know, someone's got to do it, you know, because it's kind of predicated on the fact that, well, yeah, we do have to provide food, but that doesn't justify the existence of slaughterhouses at all, you know. Whereas, you know, he was kind of using those two things as almost like a causal thing, you know. It's quite interesting, you know, the way that people do that. It's interesting to me in the sense that, you know, we all ought to kind of say, in a way, we ought to adopt Reagan's thing and say, well, yeah, that is a complicated issue. Because, of course, you know, we do know that people will do that, you know. They'll go to the periphery. You know, they'll ask about insects, they'll ask about oysters, they'll talk about, well, you know, do you want cattle to be extinct? You know, they'll go to these peripheral issues very quickly because they're trying to almost find a chink in your armour, and they're wanting to throw the argument out completely because they've found something that is problematic. And of course there are some problematic issues. You know, other animals are harmed in crop production, for example. This doesn't create a problem for vegans. It actually implies that what we really need in society is more vegans in order to solve that problem. You know, we're not going to solve that within a speciesist system. You know, we're going to solve that within a vegan system. So I don't think we should be frightened of complexity, and I certainly don't think that we need to always think that we need to have a snappy answer to everything, because the truth is there isn't a snappy answer to everything. And as Tom Reagan says, what we need is for people of goodwill to come together in order to try to solve these difficult issues, because they are difficult issues, simple as that, you know. It's you know, it's interesting the way that it kind of developed. You know, I'd seen this argument developed in a book from many years ago. In fact, I don't even know where it is now. I think I must have lent it out and it's not been returned. And then only last week it came back again. This guy, well, someone's got to do it. The premise of that entire argument is wrong. You know, no one has to work in a slaughterhouse. We can all be vegan, you know. So yes, humans need to be fed, but that does not imply that slaughterhouses need to exist. That just does not follow. You know, the premise is wrong. Okay, I just thought I'd put that out there. I just thought it was fascinating, the fact that all these kind of things kind of, you know, kind of follow and flow from that, which is interesting. Okay, Earthlings, I'll see you again. Be good, take care, and bye for now.